All right, so here's the start of this thing. This is called load versus capacity. Load versus capacity. Every time you or one of your clients or athletes or friends has gotten hurt or their body hasn't worked the way that you've wanted it to, this is going to explain why. The purpose of this is to understand how injury or performance limitation starts to happen so you can understand the things that lead up to it and then therefore do a better job of mitigating those and staying as far away from that cliff as possible. You being able to explain this to one of your athletes or your clients or your patients is going to help them start to have a greater sense of agency around the things that they can, you know, you're like, when you're in here, you're great, and then you do all the wrong things when you're not with me. This is going to help all of them to do a better job of taking agency and responsibility for the things they can be thinking about in their own life so that they can stay far away from the cliff here. So here's the deal. This dotted line represents your capacity. Your capacity is very simply, what can your body handle? I would like to believe that if I'm playing football with Justin and he tackles me, that he's just going to wrap around me and I'm going to be fine and carry him to the end zone with him on my back. It's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to exceed my capacity and it's going to be a bad day for me. Well, the name of the game is don't cross this line. If we cross this line, there's a problem. Sometimes that problem is painful, not necessarily. It might be painful if I get hit by Justin. If Harrison says, I need you to help me move some equipment, and the equipment is 500 pounds and I have 400 pounds of equipment moving capacity, it's a problem because I can't do it, but it's not necessarily painful. Cross the line, problem. Stay below the line, no problem. No problem, no pain, it's all good. So we know we want to stay away from this. Now we need to know what brings us there. These three boxes represent stuff that all of us have, myself, all of you guys, that we wake up with every single day that brings us closer to this line. These boxes are different from person to person. They can be different for you day to day, week to week. We need to know what they are, even though they're adjustable. The first one is what we're going to call anatomical dysfunctions. By anatomical dysfunction, all I mean is there's some aspect of your body that isn't serving you the way that you would like. Torn meniscus, torn rotator cuff, you've rolled your ankle for the 30th time as a soccer player. You broke your collarbone falling off the bed when you were 7. Doesn't matter. There's some part of your body that isn't serving you the way that it's meant to or that you would like it to. This could be something you were born with, like your left hip socket is shaped differently than your right. So doing a bilateral movement, especially to depth, is hard, if not impossible without intense discomfort. For our sake, it's not doing what you want it to do. The next thing that brings us closer there is what we're going to call our recovery box, which is represented by stress, diet, and sleep. Stress, diet, and sleep. More specifically, the better and the more you sleep, the better and the more optimally you eat, that might be redundant, and the better your response to stress, in other words, the less stress messes you up, the more able you are to recover from all the things you're doing every day. You're either in build-up mode or you're in breakdown mode. Anabolic, catabolic. The last one is what we're going to call your functional diagnosis or your functional scope. This is not a medical diagnosis. For us, this just means, let me see what you can do. How well do you move? What positions can you get into? How comfortably can you get into them? How long can you stay there? How skillful are you there? A clinician, like Sarah, might be thinking about the ability of your muscles, tendons, ligaments, and nerves to slide and glide past each other and make us say, wow, that person moves really nicely. For us, it's just what can you do? How do you move? This is when we wake up before we get out of bed. This is what we're dealing with. I imagine everyone here has played at least, everyone here sitting has played at least one sport growing up. Is that true? Okay. All of you have a bigger anatomical dysfunction box than the guy who's been playing video games in his mom's basement his whole life. He might have some arthritis in his thumbs. You guys have more bumps and bruises than that guy does. So this box is going to be a little bigger. College football, college football, college football, right? Okay. Stress, diet, and sleep. The guy who now has a 4-week-old and is waking up for night shifts to help his wife recover is not sleeping as well. His diet and his ability to respond to stress are going to be different. This box is going to be bigger. It's going to be a bigger load on his system. The girl who's tracking her macros is drinking mineralized water throughout the day, is sleeping, she works for herself, and she's got a mindful meditation practice. She's going to have a relatively smaller box. Less load on her system. She's recovering well. Lastly, the person who can move well, who can get into all the positions you want them to with ease and comfort, is going to have a smaller box than the person who can't get into positions. And the reason this is true is anytime one part of your body does not move, its neighboring tissues have to take on more load to compensate for what it's not doing. Quick and easy example of this. If my hamstrings don't get as long as I need them to get down here, my lumbar spine has to move more for me to get to the floor. Quick and dirty example of what I mean there. All right, so we just woke up. Now life starts. Wake up, do stuff around the house. Go to work, whether you dig ditches or work at a desk. 8 or 9 or 10 hours of work is a big load on your system. All right, well, now I want to work out. What's on the menu? Lunges, burpees, sprints. My low back is kind of talking a little bit, but I'm not going to stop sprinting. It's okay. And then we're going to finish off with some depth jumps. And every time I land, my low back does not feel good. So now, typically what happens in the worlds of healthcare and fitness today, which live at opposite ends of the spectrum of what humans do, is, all right, well, we could solve that problem. Don't do those. Sounds like your low back really hurts when you do depth jumps. Let's not do those anymore. And now we have a problem because the person's asking, but I fucking want to do depth jumps. I need to do depth jumps if I'm going to ascend to higher levels of performance. We can equip ourselves with an understanding on how to help them not have to compromise. How do I feel good and do what I want? This is where our jobs come in. So let's see what we can do to set this person up better. Here's the good news, we'll get this out of the way. Time machine's broken and I can't unroll your ankle for the 20th time. Whatever you've done to your body, you've done to your body. It's staying there. Here's the good news. Without changing anything else, the person with the torn meniscus is okay. They're not crossing their line just because of their torn meniscus. There's still some room. So with respect to your stress, your diet, and your sleep, is there anything we can do to improve our stress, our diet, and our sleep? If not, we'd all be screwed. We can. Let's say that we can cut it in half. That'd be a big win. I think it could be close to 0. Let's say we can cut it in half. You've improved the way that you think. You've decided to be more intentional about how you respond to things. You're eating more intentionally. You're eating more consistently. You're improving your sleep hygiene. Your flexibility, your mobility, and your skill. Can those things change? If not, we wouldn't have jobs. Let's say that we can cut that in half. Here's the new person. It's not happening overnight, but here's the new person. Stack the same loads on them with the new setup. Stuff around the house, work for 8 hours. Workout time. Lunges, burpees, sprints, depth jumps. Now they're happily under the line. What's the most dangerous position that a recovering athlete can be in? When they what? What's the most dangerous position an athlete can be in? What's the point of highest risk for an athlete that's starting to feel better? Yeah. An athlete that starts to feel better when they weren't is like, let's go. And then they run through a brick wall. And they're like, pick up basketball tomorrow, 8 a.m., after I get off working as a bartender at 2 a.m.? Yes. And now they're confused because like, I don't understand what's going on. I felt better. My back was great. It was working. What's the problem? And now they're in this cycle of confusion and frustration. So we know that on the one hand, we have things that we don't like that aren't doing anything for us. We have to do our best to control these best we can. Influence them to the greatest degree of our ability. The next thing is what you guys, as practitioners, do better than any other category of job in the world if you do your job really well. And that's take this line and raise it intentionally and specifically to the individual. All of us need different things right now. If we all follow the same program to the T, we're going to all get different results. If we all follow the program that we need to the T, we're going to get the maximum result we can. And so your job is now helping the person account for all the things that are under their influence and then write a program and guide their behavior specifically to them, so that instead of waking up with this margin of error before something goes wrong, they wake up with this margin for error before something goes wrong. That's an athlete that can do more for longer with less compromise. I don't know about you guys, I want to be the one on the right.